This is the zombie princess, Jimmy Jacobs, and I want you to keep listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. And hey, I'm a princess. I always get what I want.
Catching flies in his mouth, tasting freedom while he dares, then crawling back to the top of the stairs, He won't see the sun again for years to come. He's broken out in love.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Seal of Approve Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and I am joined by the one and only Mike. Mike, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. It's been a hell of a week. It's been a hell of a week.
It's been a hard week.
It's been a very hard week, and it all started exactly a week ago today. The day I was recording, 1 week ago today, I was recording with Matt, and we had just lost Terry Funk a few hours prior. I was getting ready to make this this Edge tribute show for the end of his supposed end of his career, putting that all together, and then all of a sudden we get the news that Terry passed away. And I started wondering, am I gonna have to scrap this Edge list? Like, do we just go and do a Terry show? Like, what are we gonna do? And I said, you know what? Let's sit on it. Let's let Terry faster. We'll give Terry the show he deserves in a week or two.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that as well. I didn't want to just rush something, and and you guys all know I love me some Terry Funk, and that was a tough one to lose.
And then my thought process is I'm sure it'll be like a slow news week that we could spend a lot of time on Terry, and fuck me if it was anything but a slow news week.
Yeah,
probably the hardest news week we've had in professional wrestling in a very long time.
Yeah, the 24 hours later, we find the news that Bray Wyatt had passed away, and we're going to spend about 90% of our show this week talking about Bray Wyatt. We're going to very shortly throw to an interview that I conducted about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I guess, by this point, with Eric Rowan. And
we were holding on to that episode for that interview just for when the timing was going to be right. We weren't in any rush for it because there was nothing topical happening. We obviously didn't think that we were going to need it for a Bray tribute show.
Well, we weren't really intending, and it's funny because I'd asked you probably about 5 times over the last 3 weeks, hey, when should I drop this Rowan thing? And you're like, you can drop it whenever. And we were gonna put it on a show, and then we didn't. I was gonna release it solo, and I was actually gonna release it the day that Bray passed away, and then I was like, well, I don't want to do that. No, that's not who we are.
It would have gave the impression that we were exploiting his death for views, and that you just said it perfectly. That's not who we are. That's not the show that we do. So I'm glad you held on to it, and I'm glad we're debuting it here because now it can be used for this touching tribute to a wrestler that you and I both loved. And there's it's proof that we did truly both admire Bray Wyatt, because the list we're doing tonight is a list that we've not only pre-recorded, but it's a list that we've put on the show before. We had a full Bray Wyatt show already on this show just because we love Bray Wyatt.
If I could kind of just dive into the format a little bit that we're going to do here tonight. It's going to be a little bit different counted out show this week. We're going to we're very shortly and very quickly going to talk about a little bit of the world of wrestling. AEW specifically I'm pretty sure they had a big event this last weekend, but you wouldn't know judging by the internet. We'll talk about all that in a minute. And when we're done talking about that, we're going to throw to the Eric Rowan interview. and then we're gonna just kind of air some prior stuff that we've done on Count It Out. We're gonna throw back to a wonderful conversation that I had with Wei Ting from Post Wrestling from our year-end show, where I've kind of clipped a portion of that out, where we talked specifically about Bray Wyatt's return to the company. And I edited some of this out, and the one part that was tough to edit out, I didn't edit out for any reason other than just kind of keep the show at a good time, and I just want to talk about his return. But I ended, and you can hear the full thing on our year-end shows, so go check that out in the archives. But the one of the last questions I asked Way was, what can we expect from Bray Wyatt over the next year? And this is not what we expected to happen at all.
No.
It's terrible.
No.
And we're going to dive into Bray in a little bit.
Yes.
And then we're going to close it out with the list that I did. It was probably the week or two after his return to the company.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what month it was, but I remember you and I did it sitting in my office.
And no, I don't think we were together on this list.
I believe we were.
Not by the footage that I edited
Okay.
today.
Okay. Well, I was in my office. I was in my office.
But it was sad because
thoughts for you.
I have a Siri running. The sad thing too, and it's not in our interview, so you have to go back and listen to the full interview on our archives as well. But we were talking about kind of how we were both not super impressed with his follow-up so far, and you said, well, like Bray's only 34, 32, 33 years old, like who knows where his legacy is going to be. And that was a sentence you said, and it's like, fuck, man, that's heavy. It was heavy to put this show together this week.
Yeah, we're going to get into it a little bit. I don't want to give too much right now, but yeah, that sentence alone, use the perfect word. That's heavy, man. That's because the world, okay, I'm going to use the most cliche term in the world, but this is so true. He had the world in his hands, man. He had the world of professional wrestling in his hands, and he had some very important people like Triple H, Shawn Michaels. He had these guys backing him up and saying that, hey, man, you're the man, you can do this. The only thought in keeping him down, as far as I'm concerned, was Vince McMahon. I don't think Vince saw what Triple H saw in him. If that big thumb of Vince wasn't keeping him down, didn't fire him during the pandemic and didn't kind of stifle his creativity for a while, we would have saw much bigger things from Bray before he unfortunately got sick.
Yeah, we can let's dive into that, and let's pick up on that in a little bit. I want to talk let's talk a little bit about the world of wrestling. Let's specifically hone in on AEW right now. What should have been the biggest by far, and first of all, congratulations to AEW. Before we get into anything, let's tip our cap. They filled up Wembley Stadium, man. 81,000, I believe, was the final number. Something like that.
That was the paid ticket, the paid attendance,
Mm-hmm.
and that's an important thing to signify. Listen, I'm not gonna be one of those guys shitting on Vince for doctoring the numbers and stuff like that, because that's just the way things were done back then. You tell me he was the first person to fucking doctor numbers? Bullshit. NWA used to do it all the time back in the day.
Ricky Morton's famous line: "They're hanging from the rafters, brother."
Yeah, and you don't think that Metallica's management has doctored a number a time or two, or Michael Jackson's management? Come on, bullshit. Vince wasn't the first person to do it. He won't be the last person to do it. And who knows? We don't know that Tony didn't doctor those numbers. I feel he didn't. But here's the difference in the two numbers. The numbers were given, back in '92, and for let's say WrestleMania 6 at the Sky Dome, and any of the big numbers that they were proud of. The numbers given to us were not paid attendance. It was the number of people in the building. So you're talking the guy who you bought your T-shirt from, the ticket taker, the usher, the ring crew, everybody, every single body, including the wrestlers, including Vince, every single person in that building was counted towards that number.
And
so
then
that
probably
101,000,
probably about 15,000 just made up people as well.
yeah, sure. So that 101,000. Now, do I believe that their paid attendance was probably at least very close to what Tony's was at AEW? Yeah, I do. I don't think Tony outdid WWE by a large margin by any means. Does it matter? I don't think so, because Tony did this with less than 5 years under his belt. Tony did this in a very different stadium, by the way. This is not the same Wembley Stadium that was around in 1992. Let's be honest about that. If I'm not mistaken, there's more seats now. There is more area for them to put in. That's what I've read in the past.
I think you're correct. I think you're correct.
So, but who's to know that if, and I do believe those seats would have been filled back in the day, but would they have been filled with paid people or, the wrestlers' wives? Who knows? But
and their girlfriends.
Exactly. But the fact is, with less than 5 years under their belts, AEW has a product good enough because it's and let's be honest, and everybody knows, everyone's waiting for, I guarantee everybody listening right now is waiting for me to drop the hammer and start shitting on AEW. You're going to be waiting a while. It's not coming this week, because I'm actually proud of these guys, because here's something that wasn't able to be done by the other companies. By WCW couldn't do it. Impact Wrestling couldn't do it. No other company came close to this that were competing with Vince. Because, everybody thinks at this point that, the only reason people are so enamored with AEW is because there's nowhere else to go. It's the only non-indie. It's the only, it's the only real competition. So we got to watch it. Well, guess what? That only competition just sold 84,000 people in Wembley fucking Stadium. Back in 2004, there was only one place to go to. It was called TNA. Did TNA sell out Wembley? Nah. All right. Give it up to AEW. Give them the flowers they deserve when they deserve it. When they deserve to be shit on, I'll be the first in fucking line. But this week, I'm giving them their flowers. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be shit to get flown a little later on in this conversation, but it has nothing to do with All In specifically. All In, I think, was a great success. They got those UK bastards in that theater. I don't know what the numbers in the pay-per-view were, but I'm gonna guess they were good. I'm gonna guess.
Yeah,
they were really
I haven't heard yet.
No, but I'm gonna guess they were quite really good numbers. And then let's talk about the show. I watched for 50% of the show. Okay, I watched the matches that I really wanted to watch, and then a couple others, just to say. I loved every match I watched on this show, including matches I didn't expect to love. You're gonna sit there and tell me that you expected me. You know me better. You know me better than almost anybody else. You know my wrestling preferences more than anybody else. Did you have Mike loving the Young Bucks versus FTR on his fucking bingo card this year?
Yes, I actually am not surprised. I'm not surprised to hear that, because FTR is incredible, and I know you hate the Bucks,
but me, the fact that I love that match,
I'm just
everything about it. Like,
I'm very confident in those guys as a tag team, like all of them, that I'm not surprised to hear you say you enjoyed their match.
CM Punk versus Samoa Joe, I thought was fantastic. I thought it was a great way to open the show. It was a great match. We got classic Samoa Joe. That felt like an ROH match, like that, like from Samoa Joe. Anyways, I really enjoyed that match, and it was the perfect amount of time. They went something like 14 minutes. I think if any longer would have been too much, and I think it was perfect. I think the wrong guy went over, and that's not because I hate Punk. I just think the wrong guy went over.
So I'm behind on the card. I was actually on holidays last week, and I was in the United States while this event went on. So I've only seen the main event so far.
That's all you've watched? Okay.
That's all I've seen so far.
I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to be spoiling things.
Well, I know what happened. I've read it. I skimmed through a little bit of it, but I made a point to watch the main event from start to finish. And I will.
That may again. Did you have this on your bingo card? That main event's going down for one of my favorite matches of 2023.
I'm gonna say I'm not surprised to hear that, because I have this weird thing with MJF. It's been a love-hate relationship with him all year.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you right now, like, if you put a gun to my head, if this was our year-end show, I think he's my wrestler of the year. This feud with Adam Cole has propelled him to that level for me. But I've been telling you all year, his Iron Man match with Danielson was fucking incredible. The Four Pillars 4-way match was very, very good. The Adam Cole stuff has been incredible. His match with Tanahashi was very good. What was the other big one he did? I'm missing one, but I've just been really, really impressed with his in-ring work all year. I get unimpressed when he goes through this cheap heat indie bullshit, But
which is I think why I'm so into him right now, because that's not his character right now.
Babyface MJF, his heelisms are fantastic now. Like when he got that crowd chanting sportsmanship,
right?
and then shook Cole's hand and poked him in the eye, I was just like, this guy, like, he got fucking kangaroo kick over. He got double clothesline over. Clothesline is the finisher of the year right now. Like, so I to coin the phrase, I'm giving the devil his due. I am worshiping on MJF right now. I am highly enjoying what he's doing.
As am I. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think on the show, I don't remember. You and I have discussed how babyface MJF is one of my favorite things going right now, which is awesome for another thing too, because it cements Dominic Mysterio as the greatest heel in the world right now.
I think
now
he
the MJF
was regardless.
now that MJF's not even in the running. So that works out for me.
Dominic Mysterio today said on the WWF bump that he's getting ready to celebrate his 25th anniversary with the company. That's incredible.
Not wrong.
It's incredible, right?
I love that. Another thing I loved about this main event is it ended exactly how I wanted it to. I was so afraid that they'd be too afraid to keep them together in the end, and it would have been a mistake to break them up. It really would have. And you kept them together, but you did the perfect teases. Having Roddy Strong involved there was great. I'm loving the fact that you're having Roddy Strong involved with the Kingdom,
which is Adam Cole's old teammates, right?
Exactly. And those guys can be heat magnets when you want them to be. They're great baby faces. They're great baby faces as well, especially Matt Taven. But both Taven and Bennett are heat seekers. So Roddy, I think, found the greatest alliances in them to help him get over as this master heel.
Yeah.
When I think of the great heels, I don't think Roddy's Strong. I really don't.
I think that we should get Roddy and MJF at All Out. I think that should be the match.
Unfortunately, that's not happening.
Did they announce it already? What it is?
This is going to be part of my discussion because I have a problem with All Out. First of all, can you explain this to me? Why is All Out happening a week after All In? What's going on here?
I have no idea.
Okay. That's strange to me. Is it not? Is that not just weird? I'm going to read off the card to you. And to me, listen, it's going to be good. The matches will be good. But it feels like an oversaturated episode of Dynamite to me. And I have a big problem with the championship lineups. Because what did I tell you about a year ago why I didn't want Tony Khan to be buying ROH? It's because I knew he wasn't going to keep it separate. He wasn't going to make it his own thing. And he's gone and done exactly what I didn't want him to do. the two the two candidates for main event on this card are both ROH title matches, and there's no AEW World Title match.
Well, we
So
also it was supposed to be CM Punk and Ricky Starks as well for the fake world title.
For the real world title, sure. I'm gonna go really quickly through this here. You got Luchasaurus versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship.
Yeah.
You got Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yeah.
You got Statlander versus Soho.
Mm-hmm.
You got Orange Cassidy versus Moxley for the International Championship. That'll be
that'll be a really good match.
Yeah. You got Omega versus sorry, I always don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. The Takshita?
You're asking the wrong guy, buddy.
Yeah. You got an 8-man tag team match. You got the Bullet Club Gold versus FTR and the Young Bucks. Okay. Then here's where my problems with this pay-per-view start. Here's your 3 main event candidates. You got Better Than You Baby versus
they just announced who that's going to be. It's a spoiler. Okay. So if anyone is avoiding a spoiler until Saturday, tune out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you've been warned.
6, 7. That's our gimmick. They are going to be going up against the Dark Order, John Silver and Alex Silva. They won a battle royal on Rampage.
And that's your all. Isn't All In supposed to be like their fucking WrestleMania or All Out?
They just did WrestleMania.
I guess so. Then you got that follow with Samoa Joe versus Shane Taylor. Listen, I'm a big fan of Shane Taylor, but keep him on fucking ROH. And then you got Eddie Kingston and Shibata versus the Blackpool Combat Club. Holy fuck, man. I don't know. This feels like
MJF.
This is an ROH card.
MJF's also defending the world title at the pay-per-view. Again, they're doing they haven't announced it yet. Because he's doing there's a battle royal or a small tournament to crown who will be facing him. So he's pulling double duty at the pay-per-view.
All right. Well, I hope you're right. But on the other hand,
well, they announced it tonight.
Okay, but that still oversaturates the card. That'll put a 10th match on this card that's already too long.
That's AEW.
Yeah.
I want to comment on something that Eric Bischoff said about this event. I don't care about All Out right now. I'm talking about All In again. He said that it was he gave them their credit, great job filling up the people, but to him it felt like the world's biggest indie card.
Yeah.
And he said that it didn't have that moment and I don't disagree with that part of it.
I don't either.
You keep talking. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. I don't disagree with the fact that there was no big moment on the show. I think that the stadium was the big moment. The fact that they sold out this thing, they were just letting this whole show be the moment. Were they lacking that big moment? Yeah, maybe. My problem is you're coming out here going, it felt like, it was the word he likes to use is indie-rific. It felt so indie-rific. Yeah, bud, because you know why? That's their demographic. That's the people that watch AEW. That's what they want to see. Tony, you can say what you want about Tony. I've got a lot of fucking things to say about Tony Khan, but the man knows his crowd and he gives them what they want to see. There's a reason he bought ROH because that's what he was basing his company on. Okay. So you want to call it the biggest indie show ever. Well, guess what? That indie show drew 82,000 fucking people, Eric. I love you. You're a friend of the show, but know when you're wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, 100%. It didn't. I'm not going to comment because I haven't watched the whole show yet. The main event was fantastic. The hype was fantastic. I skimmed through the show on the way to the main event just to kind of see some things here and there.
Sure. Yeah.
Crowd looked great. I watched. Jericho tried to do his entrance. He did his best Freddie Mercury, which I wasn't too big on it, but they had the Queen, Paige came out, Saraya came out to "We Will Rock You," and Tony.
The Young Bucks, the Young Bucks came out dressed like Freddie, in the same outfit that he wore at the famous Wembley concert.
Same sneakers too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm excited to go back and rewatch this whole card. Let's just try to be really quick on this because I do want to get into some Bray Wyatt stuff in a minute.
Well, you and I have already talked about this show more than anybody else has talked about it. Because nobody else wants to talk about how good the show was. Everybody wants to talk about the bullshit. And we're going to talk about the bullshit, but it was important to me that we actually talk about how good this company did this weekend.
Absolutely. And I hope that they keep that momentum going into All Out. I think a big reason why they felt that they could go that quick from one show to another is because it's in Chicago and they have CM Punk.
Do they though?
I don't think so. Now, listen. You know me, I am a Punk fan. I have been a Punk supporter for a long time. I will say when he's wrong, and I've been very vocal about my displeasure with the way that he's handled the press conference and all that stuff in the past. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a fan of that, and I've been honest about it. I actually am not mad at Punk this time. Like, I am a little bit.
Come on, man. He is not in... listen, we'll talk about the division of blame here, but he's no fucking angel.
No, he shouldn't have got physical. He needs to, that's not how you react to things when people piss you off.
But also, it's the whole thing of Samoa Joe had to convince him to go out and have this match. They almost had to scrap the fucking match because he was being a fucking baby.
Well, yeah, he got his boo-boo face on. But I understand, if I were CM Punk, I would not come back to AEW.
There should be an amicable split here. Tony, listen, I get Tony's a businessman. He, looks at that CM Punk just like as we all do as a big draw for his company, and that's a smart thing. But that draw only goes so far if it's hurting your company internally. At this point, I'm saying both for the best of both worlds, for the betterment of both men. I think Tony and CM Punk need to shake hands and say we tried, didn't work.
Yeah, it's oil and water.
I think they both 100%. This isn't going to work. Apparently, one of the this is rumor, but one of the lines out of CM Punk's mouth at this show was, "I fucking hate this place."
I don't blame him though. I don't. I would too if I were him. It's not for him.
It's not for him, but
you're making a lot of money. So.
But I'm not going to go ahead and be like, why does he hate it? Because he's not getting his dick sucked every 5 fucking minutes. Because some people are actually standing up for themselves.
No, you know what though?
No, and no, Jack Perry's not in that list for me. Jack Perry was in the wrong. I love Jack Perry.
I want to talk about that in detail in a minute too. But
I love Jack Perry, but I'm not going to defend him here.
My problem is that these guys, if they have a problem with Punk, they're shooting on the air and hurting the product. Hangman made those comments. Now Jack Perry's doing it. Punk did it at the press conference. Well, he did that.
Punk did it 2 weeks ago.
Punk buried Hangman on air as well. I get it, and it's just wrong. And I think Punk's playing if you can't beat him, join him, and that's not the right way to do it. You're a veteran, you need to be professional.
That's not the game you're playing when you started the game.
No one's being professional in this setting.
No, nobody.
Who's actually been the best ones out of everybody so far? It's the Young Bucks, because they just shut up and stopped. They were bad for about 3 weeks after the whole thing, and they've not said a fucking word about it.
Well, they have a lot more to lose than anybody else, though, right? What kind of look does it give when your executive, producers or whatever, the executive vice presidents, when they get suspended for conduct? That's a bad. It's one thing when your champion gets suspended. That looks bad, but he's a performer. He's an employee. Your manager's an
unpopular opinion, maybe to some.
Mm-hmm.
I might fire Jungle Boy if I'm Tony Khan.
No, I don't agree with you.
I'll tell you why. There's two reasons why. Number one, at some point, Tony needs to show I have balls and I will fucking use them.
He does.
Now,
yes, he does.
This isn't but hold on. Hear out my reasoning though. This is not an episode of Dynamite or Rampage or what a pay-per-view. This is your biggest fucking show in company history. It is the highest, one of whatever their fucking thing is, most paid ticket attended wrestling event in the world. And you're going out and you're pulling that shit.
Mm-hmm. What he did was wrong, but there's been a precedent set.
Well, somebody needs to be made an example.
There was agreed, but hear me out here. Until now, there was nothing ever to show, Jack Barry, that you can't do this. It's not right. It's wrong. There was nothing to show him that. Now here's we go. This is where they have a chance to wipe the slate clean. Okay, the end of this whole bullshit. You wipe it. Tony needs to have a company-wide meeting. Tony, not his vice presidents, not anybody else. Tony fucking Khan needs to stand up, show the entire roster his dick, and say, I'm your fucking boss. From this moment on, this is what happens. These are the rules. If you cannot abide by my rules, there's the fucking door.
Yeah,
you and I both were. No, it's not. But that's what is gonna. This is what has to happen. You and I have worked in management for the majority of our adult lives. How many times did you have a come to God meeting with like a rally meeting or something like that with your staff and say, "Hey, you guys are fucking up, and if you don't stop fucking up, then there's the fucking door." And the thing is, and sometimes you have to put the blame on yourself. And I've done this many times as a manager. I've said, "Listen, I've let you assholes get away with this too much. It's my fault that I didn't give you shit for this 6 months ago. It's my fault that I didn't give you shit for this 3 months ago. It's my fault for laughing when you did this fucking, blah, blah, blah. It's my fault for not making sure that this isn't going to happen again. But this is me making sure this doesn't happen again. You fuck up again, you're gone. The precedent has now been set. Tony needs to get up onto a soapbox, wave his dick in front of his fucking roster and say, I am your boss. CM Punk does not own Collision. That's not the Collision is not CM Punk show. It's my show. Dynamite is not the Buck show. It's my show. This AEW is my fucking show. You do things my way or fuck off. He doesn't have the balls to do it though. He just won't do it.
I would fire both of them. I'd fire Punk and Perry.
Well, that's not going to happen. But
I mean, I think that's.
On what is basically his first defense, I don't think Perry deserves to be fired at this point.
You can't do that on your biggest show ever.
No, I agree, but when it's been
nobody would be talking. There would be no instant happening. No one would be talking about this Punk shit. No one would be fucking going on and on about it. Everyone would be focusing on just the show if Perry grew the fuck up. There's no need for it. You know what I mean?
No, but there was also Punk could have been a bigger man and not pick a fight with him on his way.
100%. That's why I'd fire both.
I'm not sitting here defending either man. They're both in the fucking wrong. I don't know that I'd fire anybody right now. That's just me. But
if this shit happened in the WWE, everybody would be fired.
Somebody put out a meme today that they're like, oh yeah, this shit never happens in the WWE, and they put a list of things like Vince getting punched in the face by Brett or the plane right from hell or stuff like that. Like, you just listed 4 things that happened in the span of 30 fucking years. I can give you 4 things that happened this year.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's talk about that time period.
All the worst things that happened in AEW really started exactly a year ago.
But if you want to take a look at all the big... Yeah, and if you want to take a look at all the big things that happen in the WWE, the next thing you hear is Vince and JR sitting down with them and talking. Right? Yeah. But I guarantee you, I don't care who you are. Well, there's certain people that can get away with shit, that like your Rocks, your Triple H's, your whoever. But I guarantee you that if somebody that was at the same level as Jungle Boy did some shit like that on a WWE, it could have been a Monday Night Raw. You're fucking gone, buddy.
You're not even close to wrong here. I mean, go all the way back to like 1990, or maybe it was 89. The Rockers got drunk in a bar, had a brawl, they got fired the very next day. Yeah, what they did had nothing to do with a pay-per-view or you know what I mean?
If I were Tony
you
Khan,
go into business for yourself.
If you're not firing him, I would give Jungle Boy the Triple H 1996 treatment.
I'm not. I hate that. As a Jungle Boy fan, as a man who wants to see this guy pushed, I agree with you.
Yeah, but now I don't trust you. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to put you in this position. This is the biggest push that he's gotten so far. They just
And
turned him heel.
I've seen no proof at all that he's even talked to Tony. The Tony's even given him a slap on the wrist. All I know is that he was escorted from the building by Wembley security, and that he was given a phone call and told you're not to be at work for a few weeks. Like that's bullshit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bullshit. But the biggest bullshit is that it's being this great show, this great moment, this great opportunity is being 100% overshadowed once again by bullshit.
Yeah.
And at the center of that bullshit is your boy. I'm sorry, but he's always at the center of the fucking of the shit storm. And it'd be interesting to see when, let's say our wish comes true and he decides to walk away and he leaves AEW. Be interesting to see if the bullshit kind of goes away. Because it's not like there's not a lot of egos there.
It's not just Punk that's in the bullshit. It's been, Eddie Kingston, Sammy Guevara. It's fucking been enough people.
Chris Jericho's no angel.
He has been in AEW, I think.
I mean, he's done a few things that I'm just like, what the fuck is his diva attitude is kind of fucky, but it's on the lower end of the totem pole when it comes to bullshit that's been going on. Anyways, that's not what this show's about. We're not here to completely talk about all that bullshit. We are going to get back into some Bray Wyatt. We just really needed to talk about the AEW stuff. Give AEW their flowers. Hopefully, the bullshit of the Punk Perry situation goes away quickly, and we can get back to watching this company grow. I'm excited to hopefully start becoming a fan of this company because the way they're going right now, the matches they've been presenting, the storylines they've been presenting, I'm finally enjoying it. And if you can take away the things that sour it for me, then I'll be back. I'll be all in. But this bullshit needs to go away. With that said, talking about companies that I do love. Another thing that overshadowed because of all this shit, nobody's talking about the fact that on that very same day, Impact put on a show. I have yet to watch it, but maybe next week we'll talk about Emergence just a bit. It happened in our backyard. Neither you or I were able to go to the Rebel down in Toronto for it, but I'm hearing good things about the show.
Yeah, I've heard the same, and I haven't watched it yet, so I don't want to really talk about it. I don't think that's fair, but maybe next week we can jump in and do that.
Yeah.
How about we go to let's go to the Eric Rowan interview right now, and then we'll come back and you and I will talk about Bray a little bit, and then we'll go to Wei Ting and the list, and then we'll take it home.
Beautiful.
So about again, I want to just say this interview happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago. This happened before Bray's passing. But here I am sitting down and talking to one half of the famous Wyatt family. Here's my conversation with Eric Rowan. All right, guys, we got a big special guest here today, former WWE Tag Team Champion, member of the Wyatt family, one of the most legendary groups in the history of the business. I'm here with Eric Redbeard Rowan. Mr. Rowan, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes here.
I like how you put that, Eric Redbeard Rowan.
Got to get the best of both worlds, right?
Great moniker.
No, got it.
Thank you.
So we're up here in our home country of Canada here. You're paying us a nice visit. We appreciate that. Do you have some favorite memories or moments of coming over to visit us over in this neck of the woods?
I mean, Canada, I don't know, Toronto, tons of matches over there. But as far as memories, I always want to get out of the city, and I never get a chance to get out of the city. So today at Wasaga Beach, I didn't know this place existed. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful out here. They got the traffic jams heading to the beach. So I'd like to see the beach.
You're only a couple feet away. Maybe when you're done here, you can head over and hit the sand a little bit.
Yeah, but probably good memories. I remember there was a pay-per-view that we did out in Toronto, and we went and saw Iron Maiden over at the amphitheater. That was a badass show.
Great venue too.
Oh yeah, right by the water.
Yeah. I've been to a lot of good shows at the amphitheater. A lot of good memory. Well, a lot of hazy memories at the amphitheater. Let's switch gears a little bit. We got to talk about the Wyatt family. In my opinion, one of my personal favorite debuts of anything on the main roster. Can you kind of take us through your memories of that first night when you guys came out, did the great angle with Kane? We'd never seen anything like that on TV before, with the entrance and you know those the creepy music vibe, and then the big angle with the steel steps. What are some of your memories just about that debut night?
No, it was really cool. It was unique. We shot all those vignettes, and they did them like found footage from a reporter, and so like there was a buzz going around about who we were. So when we were in Baltimore and we had the debut with Glenn, Big Kane, it was impactful. And it's funny because I just remember that last shot of us smashing his face in, which is the reason that he needs to have that mask. And then I don't know if we dragged him away that day or not. I don't remember.
I don't.
I think we just left him laying.
I think so, yeah.
Because I know we kidnapped a lot of people, and nobody ever saw what happened.
Back at that Wyatt compound, crazy times,
Could
right?
you imagine that found footage?
There's a reality TV show waiting to happen.
Absolutely.
The internet kind of ran a little bit wild last year. Bray Wyatt made his return to the company. Everybody under the sun was speculating if you were going to return or not. Was there ever any talk of you coming in and doing something with Bray, or is that just something you like to sit back and have a laugh at?
I have a laugh with it because, wrestling's always never say never, but everything in wrestling's last minute. If anything is going to happen, I'm not going to tell anybody. Like, it's going to ruin the surprise. So I feel at this point it's like, if I post anything, if I post something that I happen to like, okay, well, I went out for a car wash today. Well, if something on TV happens and somebody like did something with a car and got dirty, it's going to be a speculation. Like, I'm not doing anything like to speculate, nothing like add fuel to any fire. It's just, I find it funny. I laugh at the rumors because I was like, it's news to me, but if rumors are out there, it means people want to see something. So it's ultimately not up to me. I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing independence. I'm acting, so I'm moving on, but I keep myself in shape.
I think that also speaks to the legacy that you guys have with that Wyatt family, right? People clamor to see that return, so anytime Bray pops up, you're already associated with that. I think that's a tip of the cap to you guys for everything you accomplished.
We accomplished a lot. We made a statement, and it's good to see, guys like, Braun still out there trying to do something, even though I think he's hurt now, and Bray still out there trying to do something, even though something's wrong with him as well, and Uncle Howdy or whatever his name is, and then just the impact we all have on people, especially John, who we lost a few years back, and just the legacy he did in the short amount of time when he had his chance at AEW for a little run, and it just speaks volumes to the talent that all of us have.
And, we saw you show up in AEW a couple times. You were part of that beautiful tribute show. What was that night like for you? I know that must have been a tough one, obviously, but I thought the tribute was beautiful. I thought it's one of the best wrestling shows that have ever been done. What was your experience like doing that?
It was in the middle of COVID, and everyone's grieving. It was a big loss, and it's one of those things where if I wasn't invited, I would have been devastated. I wanted to say goodbye, and that was the only way to do it in that time, to be around people that loved him and that love you. And there's no funeral. Like, that's your moment to say goodbye. And, fortunately, the world got to see and hear from people he loved, and it was a public forum of a celebration of his life, not only in wrestling, but as a person.
Yeah, you hear such great things about him, and it was a tragic loss for everybody, and I'm sorry for your loss there, absolutely. but you did have a great moment, lots of great moments with him, and one particular one at WrestleMania. You guys won the tag team titles. Can you kind of share your memories of just that whole experience in front of that large crowd with one of your best friends, capturing, the top prize for what you guys were working on?
I mean, it was a journey from FCW to NXT to the main roster to having singles runs to being put back together to having single runs to being put back together to being repackaged to finally be able to achieve what we both had tried to achieve from the moment we got there. It meant a lot. So it was a moment that I'm glad we got to share, and I'm glad he got to share with me when he was still around. But it's just one of those things that you can look back at pictures and whatever, but in the moment it felt good.
Absolutely. You had another big WrestleMania moment being in the ring with one of the biggest stars in the world, The Rock. When you look back at something like that, what do you think about being in there with The Rock, having a moment that people are still talking about to this day, and what could be possibly his last official match too, right?
I'm sure he'll have another match. I mean, if he gets cleared to do it. But yeah, it was amazing. Just to have the standoff moment and show the size difference, even though it was a quick 1, 2, 3. It was to be in there with the great one. It's always a good moment. Like I've been fortunate enough to be in the ring with a lot of very talented people, and I'm not quitting anytime soon. And there's a lot of talented people out there still on the indies, and so watch independent wrestling.
The last two questions I want to ask you here. If you had your choice of what was in the cage, what would it have been?
I've said this numerous times. I wanted the actress that was in American Horror Story, La Petite. I wanted her to be in the cage. I wanted her to be my friend that I was protecting from the outside world, and she knew that she would lock herself into the cage to protect herself from the looks and the jeers, just like I would get looks and jeers because of the way I look.
I love that. I've never heard you say that before, so that's fantastic.
And I wanted her to accidentally get killed because I wanted her to have a death on television offset, like have just the cage explode in blood in a trash compactor.
That would have made.
Now I'm just making up stuff, but
I was going to say that would have made for some can't miss TV. Last question I want to ask you here. You've done so many great things in your career. What's something that you personally look back on and just makes you happy, just makes you smile, just a personal moment for you?
People I've met, and I'll go back again. I'll say it introduced me to John, and he makes me want to be a better dad, a better husband, a better wrestler. So, and he believed in me when he was shelved and trying to get released to go do his own thing in AEW. And they wouldn't let him go. He was my biggest supporter when I broke away from Daniel, when I did my singles run before the cage. So, and he got upset when I had the cage. Like, he wanted them to do more with me. So, I'm not going to quit until I prove myself to him. You know what I mean? I want to show people what he saw in me, because I don't think people understand what I can do or what I'm capable of truly in the ring.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time out. It's always great to see you. Can't wait to see what the future holds. On behalf of myself, Tyler, and Mr. Redbeard here, you've been counted out.
So yeah, there was. You got to thank Eric Rowan for doing that, and obviously we want to send our best to him in his healing period right now. It's got to be really hard for him, especially you haven't heard this interview yet. I haven't shown it to you yet, Mike, but especially just listen to him talk about the stuff with Brody.
It's only been 2 years since we lost Brody? 3 years?
Yeah, and at the very end of the interview, as you just heard there, he said that basically he doesn't want to stop wrestling till he feels like he's lived up to how Brody viewed him in the ring. It's powerful stuff, and it's tough, and losing Bray, this has been a really hard year in general, with Jay Briscoe and Bray, and it's just been hard, man. And I feel like this is the biggest year that we've had. And, I write down everybody that passed away as the year goes because I do the obituary. But superstar Billy Graham, Iron Sheik, Draws, Funk, Bob Barker, we just lost too. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's been so hard. And Lanny Poffel, like the Bushwhacker Butch,
And
Bray.
this one, losing Bray felt different.
I don't know how it was for you, Mike, and I was talking to Anthony about this, and maybe Jonah, I can't remember, but to me, and I mentioned this to you, this is very Eddie Guerrero feelings for me.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of vibes like I got with Eddie, where this beloved superstar on the cusp of breaking out again. Eddie was supposed to win the world title when they found him, passed away. But just so young and just still so much left to give. And especially Bray. Bray was 10 years younger than Eddie when he passed away, right?
Mhm.
Bray's younger than I am. He's 32.
No.
Bray's 34.
Yeah. Bray was 34. Eddie was 39. So
Was he 39? No, I thought he was.
Yeah.
I thought Eddie was 42.
Yeah. No, Eddie was 30. I actually looked that up because I wanted to see the age between those two.
Yeah, it's just I don't even know. Like, I don't want to run down Bray's.
This is one of those. I put this in the same category as Jay Briscoe and of course Eddie Guerrero. It's one of those rare things where, unfortunately, this is a business that gets marred with a lot of controversy. And the only time you get a death that's not controversial is when it's somebody like Terry Funk, because he died when he was 80 years old. You know what I mean? If you're dying young, if you're dying pretty much under the age of 60, it's usually due to something bad, from anywhere from suicide to drug overdose to something controversial. Eddie, Jay, and Bray, those three, there's no controversy there. Just there's nothing but sadness.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to argue about. There's nothing to, and here's what's funny about that. Think of those three guys, the three names I just named, Eddie, Bray, and Jay Briscoe. Three guys who you're going to hear nobody say a bad word about. The love that's poured out for Bray right now is ridiculous.
Three guys that left young families behind as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very
sadly, yeah.
It's tough, man. Jay with the car accident, that wasn't his fault, and Bray, with the kickbacks of the COVID disease, and his heart was not strong, and
so apparently, I don't know if you read the update to the Bray Wyatt cause of death. Unfortunately, he was told the day of his death that he was going to have to wear this defibrillator, this out of body. I didn't even know these existed. I looked these up after reading about this. This is very interesting stuff. Everybody knows that guys like Triple H or I believe possibly Ric Flair. Don't quote me on that one. Or even Scott Hall. They all had defibrillators put in their bodies, so they're constantly inside their body. Well, Bray was supposed to wear one outside of his body at all times, and he wasn't wearing his. They found his in his car the day that he passed away. He had a doctor's appointment where he was given it. He drove home, left it in the car, went for a nap, and just never woke up. That's one of the saddest fucking things I've ever heard. His child with JoJo. I'm not sure if he's got children from his previous marriage.
I believe he does.
I want to say he does, but that's not something I'm ready to be quoted on. But he does have a very young child with JoJo, and it's so sad that child. That child's probably younger than Brian Pillman was when his father passed away. Mm-hmm. He's going to grow up knowing who his father was, but not being able to know who his father was.
Yeah,
and that's that's heartbreaking to me.
Yeah, I don't want to run through his whole career because we're going to play the list again in a minute which highlights all the big ones. But do you have a favorite Bray Wyatt moment and opponent?
One of my favorite moments is a moment that I'll kick my own ass for the rest of my life for missing. And that was SummerSlam 2019 when he debuted the Fiend character.
I was there. I was
What the
there
fuck?
for that.
I know you were there. I could have been there, and I turned down the tickets and decided to watch it in my home. I was, I did NXT the night before. I said I don't need to do SummerSlam. It's fine. Man, I wish I was there to witness that, because it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. His entrances in general were always very cool, but the very first Fiend entrance against Finn Balor, very cool. His return to the company at
Extreme Rules.
Pardon me?
Extreme Rules.
Extreme Rules. Thank you. I was looking for that name. That was very cool. Very, very cool. I if I remember properly, I believe Stephen Bourne spoiled that for you.
He spoiled a few for me. He's good now. He always asks me if I'm watching now.
That was one of the coolest moments, because Riddle's, you're thinking that you heard rumors that Bray might show up, but then nothing happens the whole show. Riddle is about to close the show, and they're doing that. I think they may have even gone as far as putting up that little trademark logo in the bottom to make you think it was over, and then the lights go out. Definitely one of my favorite moments of his career.
Yeah, in a moment we're going to throw to the conversation I had with Wei Ting, where we talk about that moment in great detail. I'll just share mine, and then maybe we'll throw to that. WrestleMania 30 entrance. Yeah. I just thought that was unreal. I think his greatest opponent, and the guy that he did probably his greatest work with, was Daniel Bryan. They had Agreed. Incredible matches, both as the Fiend and as Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. Yeah. That moment in the steel cage is something that I will never forget watching as a wrestling fan. I just think it was unbelievable.
The stuff with Cena as well.
Yeah, Cena
is up there with me.
See, I like the cinematic match, but I didn't like the first Cena feud. I really do think that was the point where they killed a lot of Bray's momentum.
There's a moment in time that sticks in my brain. You'll have to use your encyclopedia brain to help me pinpoint when that was, but I think it was the first feud they did. But there's a moment where Bray grabs Cena's like lifeless body in the ring and starts dancing with him like he's a fucking dead mannequin.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
That was their first feud.
That's one of my favorite things that he's ever done, because that's just so Bray.
That's the Joker.
Exactly.
From Batman
No, exactly.
1, right?
Yeah, but it's so good. You know what I mean? I love that shit.
I like their vignettes, like their debut vignettes, where like you're at the Wyatt compound, and it was like done like TMZ style reporting. It was done really cool.
I remember watching that back in the day. It reminded me of old the stuff they would have done in old Memphis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it reminds me of the stories you always hear about the old Kamala vignettes. How they took, I think it was it probably Lance took a camera out there. I think it was Jerry and Lance took a camera out to
Jerry in Jerry Lawler's backyard.
Yeah, out because he had all this like swamp area. He had this like swamp area.
Giant.
And I think of that, and that's the vibe I get from the original Wyatt family vignettes.
Yeah.
What a career though, man.
Yeah, even going back to like Husky Harris and his Nexus stuff and how he reinvented himself, like former couple-time WWE champion. I heard that Roman Reigns presented the Universal title to Bray's family, the blue Universal title, and they've now retired that title.
Yes, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, because Roman beat Bray for it. That's when that's where Roman's title reign began, was with Bray Wyatt.
People shitting all over Roman for not being at the at SmackDown that night for the tribute. Guess what, assholes? He was with Bray's family. He traveled to see Bray's widow. He traveled to be with them to present this title to them in person. He didn't need to make it about Roman. He wanted to do it privately. He wanted to do it quietly. So fuck you. Anybody who gave shit to anybody, by the way, and I've seen it all over the internet. Oh, fuck Randy for not showing up. Randy just lost one of his best friends. Randy loved Bray Wyatt. Randy hasn't even been on Twitter about it. His wife has, talking about how heartbreaking it is to see her husband in pain. You're going to give that. Everybody grieves differently. Everybody grieves differently. You want to know something? I guess I'm a piece of shit too, because I can count at least 2 funerals that I did not attend in my life because it was too fucking hard for me. You know, call me selfish, call me an asshole. Well, guess what? That's how I fucking grieved it. That's how I had to do it. Don't give anybody shit for showing up or not showing up or doing what they had to do. You didn't give a shit to Alexis Bliss too, because she couldn't get on a plane in time. Like, go fuck yourselves. That shit really pissed me off. I found that very disrespectful. But anybody who watched that show saw it was a very different tribute show, you know, with Eddie and Owen and stuff like that. They just stopped all storylines and just kind of let everything just be about that. They didn't do that this time, and I don't have a problem with that because I think Bray Wyatt loved the business so much. He loved the creative aspect of the of the business so much, and he was one of the most creative people in the business.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have wanted the creative process to continue.
Why don't we?
And that's what they gave you that night.
Why don't we use that word creative to segue into my conversation with Wei Ting? Because we really dived into Bray Wyatt's return and all the clues and all that fun time. This interview was recorded in November of last year, and it's just shocking. Like, you know, we talk about what the future holds for Bray, and I never thought that we'd be thrown to it like this. And, you know,
No.
let's go into that, and then right after that, we're gonna replay the list, and then Mike and I will come back and just take it home.
You know, you talk about Bray and the character development that he has. Do you personally have a favorite version of Bray Wyatt? Because we've seen the evolution of his character a lot.
Yeah. I think most, like, you know, there's really, to me, only been like two, like, real significant ones. One was, of course, you know, the whole Wyatt family thing with the fedora, and the other most prominent one would be, you know, the Fiend. And I think they both kind of have their real positives and standouts. For me, like, you know, I just remember back to WrestleMania 30, I believe, like in New Orleans, and just the entire town seemingly walking around there, dressed up as Bray Wyatt in the fedora. And, you know, when he came out with those Wyatt family vignettes, that style of promo and the look of those things were so incredibly cool. It immediately just felt like, you know, like a great movie villain that I think, you know, suddenly became this thing that everybody wanted to, you know, impersonate, either at you know, among your friends or whatever, or at wrestling shows. So I think that was great. But to me, it was taken to new heights with the Fiend. And I don't necessarily know if I'm that much of a fan of, you know, the Fiend character itself. But for me, the greatest highlight, I would say, of, like, you know, my enjoyment of Wyndham Rotunda's career was the Firefly Funhouse match with John Cena during that particular WrestleMania. I think it was 36.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, where it was an entire, if you want to call it a cinematic match, then yeah, I would term it that, but I wouldn't even necessarily call it a cinematic match. To me, it was more so an extended vignette, an extended, you know, video package, but one that I think did such a great job of, like, really exemplifying the psychological torturous aspects of that character, using somebody as, I think, ingrained in sort of, like, you know, WWE's fabric as John Cena, with his very, like, deep history. This match to me was, or vignette, like, was just a great psychological breakdown of all the aspects and all the fallacies in the babyface John Cena character that I feel was probably the closest we've got to, like, you know, a direct translation of what the Fiend should be from Wyndham Rotunda directly to the audience.
It really shows that creativity and just thinking outside the box and doing something different, and that's what we saw with the way that this return happened. Do you think that this is one of the most unique and creative returns that we've ever seen in WWE history?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I would say it's the most I've been challenged as a viewer when it comes to one of these sort of return vignettes. I think the closest we've had to it prior might have been something to do with, like, Chris Jericho and, like, the Save Us sort of, like, mystery. I'm sure there are other examples that I'm not necessarily thinking of in the past, but I just don't recall a time where I've had to, like, dig as deep. and by like there was no mystery about who it was going to be. Maybe for the first couple weeks, like some people suggested, oh, it could be another way to introduce Karrion Kross, or like, this person. I mean, it was always going to be Bray Wyatt, just in terms of like, somebody who hasn't been here in a while, just in terms of star power. We all knew who it was going to be, but nonetheless, it was still incredibly fun to like, specifically figure out all the little details that I think, he and I believe Rob Fee and whoever else was in charge of, creating all of these little Easter eggs, to the point where you'd have to go online, after every single one of these QR codes aired somewhere, and then finding little things in the source code, downloading the photo that would result in these images, and then looking into the metadata into the photos, doing Google searches for like, coordinates to find a little clue about, either a place called Wyndham or something like that. It was just all incredibly neat and completely different from the WWE's product, which I would say, especially under Vince, was very much catered to just surface level. Here it is, and don't look any deeper.
I think it's interesting that you kind of compared it a little bit, not compared it, but that you brought up the Chris Jericho Save Us vignettes as well, because with that they were very prominent things on TV. But with this, we started out with this angle during a commercial break on SmackDown, where they just played the White Rabbit song. And I thought that song was so perfect. But what an interesting way to start off this angle during a commercial break, of all things, where you're almost, banking on this point and hoping that somebody's going to record it and put it on social media and get that talking. I loved it personally. I thought it was such a great way to start the angle.
Completely agreed. Yeah, I even forgot about that. That was just how this whole thing kicked off, was them like, at house shows and during commercial breaks at live events, playing that song and dimming the lights and just, relying on the audience to tell their story. And of course the audience did. They know their audience. They know that this is a crowd that when they don't necessarily want stuff publicized, will find, a way to publicize the information that's out there. I think, I don't know this, but like, just for me, the greatest examples of like this sort of like fan sleuthing would be through something like, Marvel movies and Marvel TV shows. In particular for me, WandaVision, which was, a show that I think was littered with some Easter eggs, but the audience looked even deeper into it, to the point where like every little frame was kind of analyzed. Every little bug, for instance, like that was flying around, people were trying to decipher what exactly it could mean. And ultimately some of that stuff panned out, but a lot of it was just the audience thinking too much. Nonetheless, it shows an aptitude and capability for a fan to think on that level. And it's just not an arena that I'm typically used to professional wrestling kind of playing in. With like New Japan, I think is for certain stories, and AEW for certain stories. Like wrestlers themselves are able to put a lot of detail into, I think, their work. But the WWE as a product promoting something like this through a video, I'm not used to it.
And I like that you said earlier, like we all knew it was going to be Bray, and then sometimes that's okay. You know what I mean? Like we all knew CM Punk was going to come back to AEW last year, and it made for that great moment. And it's almost like if it wasn't Bray, I think everybody would have kind of been let down by the whole build, right?
Yeah, totally, absolutely, yeah. Ultimately, like what the whole experiment was to build hype for Bray Wyatt's return. It was to get you to watch the next show. It was to get you to ultimately, get interested in Extreme Rules, or the addition of SmackDown that he was going to set to appear in the next day. And I would say for the most part, it's been very successful. Reflected in metrics and merchandising sales. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me personally too, I really like the evolution of the QR codes that they did, because it would start, very small in the background. Then the next week it'd be a little more prominent, and it got to the point where it's on the back of the clipboard. Like I thought that was a fun little wink and nod to the crowd, like you're about to get something too.
Totally, absolutely, yeah. For me, like QR codes have been really nothing more than just like ways to go to your official website. For them to use the QR code as this kind of visual tool to lead people into this sort of a path towards a mystery. Like the QR code itself isn't enough to reveal what the story is. The QR code only reveals the next clue in the path. I thought it was incredibly fun.
Now, I don't know off the top of my head if this is entirely true, but they never mentioned any of this on TV, right? They kind of didn't mention the QR codes. They never talked about White Rabbit. Like, to me, that's incredible that they built up all of this excitement, all of this anticipation. We all knew it was coming at Extreme Rules, and they never promoted it once on TV. Like that blows my mind.
True. Yeah. I mean, that's part of what I think makes it fun, right? You know, the audience is not being led at all by the story and by what's seen. You almost get the sense that you're doing something that you're not supposed to. When you're going to the QR code and finding the image and then right-clicking on the website to look at the source code, you feel like you are doing that. You feel like you have earned that. You feel like you are doing something that, you know, nobody expected you to find, but you are special because you found it. That's the type of thing that I think, you know, wrestling fans are looking for. That's a challenge now, you know, for them to be engaged with. That changed and has changed, of course, since he's returned, where, like, I think they've tried little clues like that, and they've had the announcers call it out, and it just didn't work, you know, or at least it really does not feel the same. It's more like, you know, you kind of feel like you're being a little babied as a fan, you know, when I think it was, the challenge was nice before.
No, absolutely. It's almost like, you know, maybe this could be a new trend that we're going to see. This is, in my opinion, the first really successful time that social media to this extent has been brought in and used in a big storyline. You know, if you can tap into that creativity and do it right, this could be the start of a whole new trend across professional wrestling.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, with the caveat that, you know, sometimes, like, wrestling is also the best. Most often, I would say, wrestling is probably the best when it is simple. When you're telling, like, you know, sort of your tried and true, like, good versus evil stories with, you know, a guy coming out there and speaking his mind, cutting a promo about why you should watch him beat up the villain, you know, in the next pay-per-view. Like, that to me will never be replaced. I think there's still a lot of questions for, listen, like this Bray Wyatt character and how you can translate effectively what they've built with this character into a compelling in-ring product. I don't think they've proven that yet. In building hype and building anticipation and building, you know, buzz on the internet, yeah, all that stuff is great, and there's lessons that you could certainly learn from it that I'm sure they have. But whether or not it can effectively translate or certainly replace like traditional wrestling storytelling, I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
I kind of hope that they keep it special. You know what I mean? Like, I noticed, like, I found at least when WWE got their hands in that cinematic world, they really went overboard with it, kind of watered it down a little bit. The types of stuff like this, it's very catered to certain characters. You know, I could never imagine Stone Cold Steve Austin having a QR code. You know what I mean? But for a character like Bray, I think it's great. And, you know, if used properly, it could just open up this whole new world for sure. But I'd love to talk about the big moment finally at Extreme Rules. How did you think that the overall presentation of the return was delivered?
The Extreme Rules first night, I thought, was really well done. You know, I mean, again, it was very much like the CM Punk situation of last year, where everybody knew what was to come. On air, really, they've made almost absolutely no mention of it, other than the fact that they might have mentioned, like, towards the end, you know, some mention of the White Rabbit. But we all knew what was happening. All the lighters, or I should say cell phones, were out, you know, by the time the lights had dimmed. And then what they were called upon was to deliver, I think, a pretty, you know, memorable theatrical re-debut for Bray Wyatt. And I think they managed to do that. You know, it came at the end of the show. You had, of course, all the Firefly Funhouse characters pop up throughout the crowd, and then ultimately ending with, you know, Bray Wyatt donning, I believe at that time, a new mask before walking out, and that was that. I think some people might have been expecting more. Maybe they were expecting, like, him to actually cut a promo or something else. But I mean, for me, from what I was able to gather, at least, the vast majority of the audience was satisfied because, you know, they did such a good job with the theatrics of the reintroduction.
Yeah, I think less is more in that case. If he came out and cut this big promo, yeah, I like that they saved it for TV. They can build it up, try to get a rating up a little bit. I thought that being in Philadelphia was perfect for that as well. That crowd is always passionate and make things feel bigger than what they are as well. And Bray Wyatt got a superstar reaction. It's got to be one of the biggest ovations I've ever heard him get.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, we're also seeing teases of a possible faction with Bray. What do you think of that idea? Do you like the idea of him coming in with people? Who are some names that you think would fit well with Bray?
Well, I mean, there's been a ton of speculation about the identity of this Uncle Howdy character. A lot of people have been able to point out the earring that Uncle Howdy wears with the cross that Bo Dallas, of course, his brother, also has sported in the past. So I think a serious turn on Bo Dallas as part of this sort of faction would be very interesting. I'd love to see that. I don't know if I can think of too many other names on the current roster. I think like Vincent, from ROH, like a lot of people were suggesting him because of his close ties to Wyndham Rotunda in real life. If it's going to be really anybody, I would anticipate maybe some of the names that are outside of the company right now. And then maybe somebody I would hate to see Alexa Bliss back in. Like I think she, even though I suppose it's an interesting part of her character now. I never liked all the Lily stuff. I thought it was just sort of a, I don't know, cheap version of what they were doing with the Fiend, and I much prefer Alexa as a heel as her actual self in the women's division.
See, I thought that they had such potential when they started that with the Fiend and Alexa Bliss. I loved it. I was getting like those horror movie vibes from it, where she was in the trance with him, and then it just got silly, the Lily stuff, and I just didn't understand where her character went there. If they were to put Alexa back in, I'd like them to maybe take that more serious road, but it also kind of feels like a step backwards for both of them at this point as well. It's the same thing, we're hearing a lot of rumors about maybe Eric Redbeard or Eric Rowan coming in. It's almost like we're going backwards with Bray. Should we not be going forward maybe? But it also makes sense for his character. A guy like Braun Strowman, I think, is going to kind of start floundering a little bit soon. Maybe you reunite the Wyatt family a little bit, but in a different way with Bo Dallas. I don't know. I don't know if that would work. I don't know if I even like that, but it makes sense with his history if they're tying in all these little things. But I'm in the wait and see mode. As this aired, we're probably going to see a lot of things that have been different here, and maybe we're going to sound really smart and guess some of the things right, and maybe we're going to be way off. But that's the whole fun of the professional wrestling world right now, is just to sit back and enjoy the ride.
So much changes in such a small amount of time, both on screen and off screen. So yeah, this conversation could be completely outdated by the time it comes out.
All right, here we go. Top 7 Bray Wyatt career moments. This could include some matches, not a lot. Like I'm not really making this a match list, but there are some that probably will sneak on there.
I've got matches, but not matches. I've got moments in matches.
Okay,
right?
cool.
So yeah.
This is kind of just what I've enjoyed that Bray Wyatt has done, because I don't know, like I've always liked Bray Wyatt, but I'm not like as into him as everybody else is. You know what I mean? I love what he does, but I'm not like, it's not like Bray Wyatt's my guy. You know what I mean? Right. I just respect the hell out of him and think he does awesome stuff. So these are the moments that I personally find entertaining or memorable that Bray has done. I know I'm missing a lot of stuff, and leave me the comments. I know I'll probably miss some big ones. So leave me the comments if you do, and we'll go from there. But I'm going to start off with one of my favorite debuts of all time. And my number 7 is the debut of the Wyatt family on Monday Night Raw when they attacked Kane.
Right.
I love this angle. I've never seen anything like this before. The way that they did this and Kane was the perfect first opponent for Bray too, on the main roster, especially at that time period where he was still really over, still a big deal, but also coming towards the end of his career. So it was
it was okay for him to be putting over young talent.
Yes. The entrance, the close up of their face, the lighting of the lantern. We're here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then just the way they shot it with the dark arena, and holding the lantern up to their face, I was blown away by watching this entrance. I didn't know.
And this was during a time I wasn't watching a lot of NXT.
I didn't watch any NXT. I didn't have access to it at this point, so I had no idea who Bray even was.
Right.
And I was just like, and then they laid out Kane and they did that thing with the steel steps in his head. And I was just like, this is the most effective debut. If we did a top 7 debut list of all time, this would be on my list as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Just super memorable. I loved everything about it. Not really much more to say about it.
No, it was a great debut. The imagery and the entrance that we got used to over the years, this is the first time we saw it. And it's still awesome after all those years.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And everything they added to it with the rocking chair and the masks of the Wyatt family and all that. It just became this awesome thing.
Yeah.
And it all started on that debut. Yeah.
Yeah, they had such a great look, like Luke Harper channeling that Brody Lee look still, and Rowan with the mask. Yeah, it was great. And the theme song, I almost pulled a U and gave the old number 7 to the theme song.
I would have allowed that. It's one of my favorite theme songs in WWE history.
But I couldn't do it for the old number 7 because it kind of ties into my number 6.
Okay.
Which is Bray Wyatt's WrestleMania 30 entrance.
Yeah, okay.
Probably, I might catch heat for this. This is one of my favorite WrestleMania entrances of all time.
I always mix them up. 30, is that the Scarecrows?
No, that was 31. 30 was the live performance of the
theme
theme song.
Okay. I do love that. Yeah.
So here's kind of what my takeaway is from this, because I was really drunk and I may or may not have smoked a bit of a joint for this WrestleMania. I know you and I had drastically different experiences watching WrestleMania 30 when it happened. I was with, some of my very best friends on the planet up in Sudbury, Ontario, of all places, where I was living. The boys made a road trip up for WrestleMania. I hadn't seen them in a while, and we had a real good time. You know what I mean? And by the time this match happened, we were all feeling good. And when it happened, when they started their entrance, I turned all the lights off in the house. I had surround sound in my room, and we were fucking cranking it. And I just felt like, because this was in New Orleans, this WrestleMania, remember, right? And you're seeing all these crazy, like, voodoo-looking people, and the masks on, and the live band is playing, looking creepy. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, from a kayfabe standpoint, what was Bray Wyatt's week like in New Orleans to lead to this moment happening? You know what I mean? Like, think about that, like what his character was doing, what he was seeing that week, and then all of a sudden you've got the band and the mask and the fucking just the walk down and all the lights in the Superdome. It was the first time you got to see the Fireflies in a stadium setting. This is one of the best wrestling entrances of all time.
I'm not going to disagree with that. It would definitely be in the top 3 for me, at least.
Yeah, I put this above Rusev in the Tank. I don't care how many times Atlanta screwed in it.
All right, solid start.
Moving on to the number 5. I might take some heat for the placement on this one, but I'm sticking with it. Bray Wyatt winning the WWE Championship at the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, this is about where I would put it.
This was just such a nice moment. I didn't expect him to win this match. I knew it was kind of rumored to go Bray was going to win it, but I didn't think they would actually do it because Bray was just that guy that everybody thought deserved better and would always lose on pay-per-view. He'd always lose his feuds. He was on a huge pay-per-view losing streak for a long time around this time period. And just the reaction that he got from the crowd for finally winning the title, I just thought was such a great moment. And, say what you want about the next couple months with that feud with him and Orton. I thought it was terrible. I thought most of his feuds with Orton were terrible. They will not be on the list here. But I thought this was a really nice moment for Bray. Number 4.
Yeah, that's a good place.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Number 4, one that I witnessed personally, the debut of The Fiend at SummerSlam.
I'm still kicking my own ass for not being there that night. I went to NXT the night before. I just couldn't afford tickets to go to SummerSlam. I gave a lot of thought to getting some scalp tickets, but I just didn't want to sit fucking nosebleed for SummerSlam. But now I wish I sat nosebleed just to be in the building for that entrance.
It was
the
cool.
first time we saw the Fiend's entrance, which
I was hammered too. I blacked out shortly after this. I blacked out halfway through Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston, but I was hammered for SummerSlam. This was cool live though, man.
This is one of the coolest moments in his career for sure.
Just the overall presentation of it, you know, the slow like lights going down.
Yeah.
And I really, you know, we can even take this a step further and talk about the Firefly Funhouse vignettes leading up to this.
On my list, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I didn't put it on my list. I'm going to give a spoiler. It's not on my list. It came really close, but the vignettes were great leading up to it. It was so different. You've never seen it before. And then you have this dark character.
They did it for months.
Yeah.
You know, it started off with Mercy the Buzzard. And then that turned into seeing Bray as this like Mr. Rogers character, which each week got a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker.
Can I tell you what I thought the original character was going to be? I thought he was going to be like a cult leader.
Right.
I thought the kids were like, you know, like going to be like, he was just going to be like this mesmerizing, like cult leader, like Jeffrey Jones or like Jim Jones, like.
Which is kind of what his original character was.
Yeah, a little bit, right? That's where I thought they were going with it.
Very, very Manson-esque.
And then even after this, I liked the follow-up to it where like Jerry Lawler would be in Memphis and the lights would slowly go down and Wyatt would show up and hit the claw. Like I thought they really booked the Fiend really strong until Hell in a Cell. And then Hell in a Cell happened. And then Goldberg happened.
And then Vince and Nick with their cuts happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he looked like the Toxic Avenger for a little while.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
But my number 3, he looked really cool and a bunch of different spots of it. The Firefly Funhouse match from WrestleMania.
I would not have argued with you if this was your number 1.
I think my number 1 I'm going to get heat from you for, but I think I'm going to get heat from everybody for it. This was almost my number 1. And going back in hindsight, looking at my list, I wish it was my number 1. I wish I put this at my number 2. You know what? I'm going to change it on the fly. This is going to be my number 2.
All right.
I'm going to tell you my number.
Okay, we'll do number 3 in the number 2 spot then.
Yeah. This I fucked up. I should have put this number 2.
This was one of the coolest moments of one of the weirdest WrestleManias. You know, they had to pull something out of their ass. It's the first WrestleMania. We're fresh into this pandemic. First WrestleMania in history with no fans. What do? And they were able to pull this out and give us the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
It worked.
I never thought I'd ever see anything weirder than. I remember the first time I ever watched the deletion match with Matt and Jeff. I remember watching that and being like, what the fuck did I just watch? But I knew it was something special. You know, it was the same thing with Bray and John Cena, because it was so different. It wasn't like the deletion match. It was like this mini movie directed by fucking David Lynch. Like, it was fucked.
I loved watching John Cena in the NWO. All the throwbacks to the ruthless aggression. Just genius stuff. And I find that people either love it or they hate it.
Just like the Ultimate Deletion.
And I loved both of them. And that's why it's my number 2, even though I originally said it was my number 3. Change it on the fly. Number 3, that originally was number 2, but is now number 3. The Wyatt family versus The Shield.
Yeah.
Elimination Chamber was the match.
I'm very curious about your number 1, because this would have been my number 2, right behind the John Cena match.
My number 1 is going to be like, you're going to hear me say it and be like, really? And then I'm going to say why I said it, and hopefully you'll see why it's my number 1. This is more of a personal favorite for me as well. The Firefly Funhouse definitely makes a strong case for number 1.
However, these guys, that moment that they did on Raw, where they both stood on each side of the ring, fucking awesome. And this match, what a match these guys had.
And they dominated. They dominated the Shield in this.
Put the Wyatt family over strong.
100%.
Just to get eaten up by John Cena.
But it was the right move. The Shield didn't need that momentum.
No, they did not.
The Wyatt family did, and they got it and deserved it. All right, man. I have no idea.
Number one, I'm kind of cheat coding a little bit because it's kind of two parts.
Okay.
My number one is anything that Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan did together.
All right. I have rivalry with Daniel Bryan written down on my list.
Just the magic that these guys created every single time they got in the ring. And yeah, you know what? Maybe the Firefly Funhouse should actually be the number one because it's the most Bray Wyatt thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's the most Bray Wyatt-like thing. And I did this list a little bit in a rush. So maybe in hindsight, the Firefly Funhouse should be my real number one. But don't sleep on him and Daniel Bryan. They've had two amazing feuds together. They had the one feud where Bryan joined the Wyatt family to try to destroy it from the inside, which led to, in my opinion, one of the greatest moments in Monday Night Raw history inside the steel cage, where Bryan finally turned on Bray, and the crowd, I've never seen a crowd like that in my life, next to maybe Hogan and Rock at WrestleMania. That crowd was out of control. Then they have an amazing match at the Royal Rumble that year as well, which people forget about. Very, very awesome match. Then you fast forward all the way to the Fiend stuff that Bryan and Bray did together. People forget about that spot where Bray pulled Bryan under the ring and ripped his hair out.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy, man. Then they had two great pay-per-view matches. They had the strap match at the Royal Rumble. I believe they had a great match at Survivor Series as well that year. I could be wrong, though, on that one. I just love everything that they did together. So, you know what? In hindsight, I'll say Firefly Funhouse really should be number one. I'll move it down again on the fly. Number one, Firefly Funhouse. This is my number two by far, though. I think that Daniel Bryan is Bray Wyatt's greatest opponent of all time.
It's definitely on my list. It for me, it'd be more in the 3 or 4 spot, but it's definitely in the list for sure.
It's my number two. That's it. Number one, Firefly Funhouse. Doing it on the fly. I co-host this show. It's my list. I'll do what I want. All right. Haven't done a list in a while.
Oh, I get so much heat when I say that. All right. I have only 2 left over that you haven't mentioned.
Okay.
So I have 2 honorable mentions. One is from SummerSlam 2014, where he fought and defeated Chris Jericho.
Okay, great match. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great match, and I think beating somebody like Jericho gave him a lot of momentum.
They had a great cage match as well.
And my other one was him doing a run-in and costing Roman Reigns the Money in the Bank match in 2015.
Great moment as well. I also enjoyed his run-in on Moxley and Hell in a Cell with the lantern.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That one I put on my. I don't have many honorable mentions either.
No, those are my 2.
I've got 2 more after the Moxley one. The very beginning stages of Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss was so good.
It started out phenomenal.
I don't like where it went.
It ended out horribly.
But the beginning month or 2 was so good.
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed his tag team with Matt Hardy.
Me too. I meant to put that on my list. Their deletion match was great.
It was fun. Their tag team was great. They played off each other well. Yeah, those are the only honorable mentions I have. There it is. That is the list that we did probably about a year ago, almost. Just probably almost a year ago. Probably a couple months away from being a year. Probably 10 months ago. It's just sad. It sounds cheesy, but tell the people you love that you love them, and just take a step back. Take a step back in the world, and I'm not even talking about wrestling right now, but just enjoy life, because one run at it. You know what I mean? Don't Don't take it for granted.
It's funny on a personal note. I really thought about that a lot yesterday. Thinking about how all the things that Bray won't be able to do with his children now. I said, fuck it. Yesterday I had the full day off work and it was just me and my boy. I threw him on the GO train. He took his very first train ride ever.
All by himself. Wow, he's really young for that.
yeah, I know, right?
Just threw him on the train and told him to get the fuck out of here.
and then I sat in the bar all day. What a day. No, I took him on the GO train. We went to anyway. I apologize to anybody who's not from the Toronto area. All this is gonna be lost to you, but I'm gonna talk about it anyways. Anyone who knows Toronto, we took the GO train all the way to Union Station. Then after Union Station, when we walked off the platform from Union Station into the Toronto, so we walked onto French Street, and as soon as you walk into French Street, the city is there, right? And this is his first time really seeing the city. And I had one of those moments where I'm like, holy fuck, this is one of those great moments for me. I get to witness my son seeing something for the first time and taking it all in, and the looks on his face. I took in everything a little bit more yesterday than I think I normally would have, because it's all become so real to me that this could be taken away tomorrow. And we walked around Front Street a bit. We walked around the area downtown Toronto, and I took him to Ripley's Aquarium for the first time, which was cool because it was not only his time at the aquarium, but it was my first time as well.
It's really cool, eh?
It's a very fun place. And again, me just standing back and watching him soak this all in and having such a good time was one of the greatest moments of my life, because we take things for granted so often. And I'm at a point in my life where I have way too much to lose. I don't, we don't control, like anything can happen tomorrow. We don't control that. What we control is in the moment right now. And in the moment right now, I just want to be that guy who loved his kids. And I think that's what Bray Wyatt was as well. So I took that to heart, especially yesterday, but I'm taking it to heart every day now, that I'm just, fuck everything else. Fuck every time I'm pissed off at work, every time that, every time some asshole says I have no credibility on a podcast, I'm not going to let any of it bother me. And just remember, man, like my kids, like that's what it's all about. And even the people with no kids, everybody's got that something. Everyone's got something to keep them driving, something that they can lose, and just don't take it for granted, man. Just like Tyler said, tell the people that you love them. Show the people that you love them. Show your love language. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what's happening tomorrow. You don't know either. So that's it, man. You have anything left to say about Bray Wyatt?
I think that you just said something really beautiful there, and I'm going to take a page out of your book, because I think you said it perfect, and I'm going to take us home this week because that was beautiful, and I have nothing more to say. So on behalf of ELE, everyone love everyone, and our big respects to Bray Wyatt. The Terry Funk tribute show is still coming, and much love to Terry Funk as well. But just on behalf of Bray Wyatt, and thank you, Bray. You've been counted out.
Cheers.